So, Lisa, tell me about how you understand spirituality as it relates, spirituality or energy, how it relates to art, and the importance of people being able to. I like what you said about people that haven't done art or entered that energetic space for 5, 10, 15 years, and they may have something missing. And you didn't say they may have something missing, but I will say I think they have something missing. It's okay to go back to the pad. It's okay to pick up some markers and learn how to go back to that creative space. Can you build on that?
Yeah, so I think, I'm in my 30s, and a lot of people around my age, we use the term adulting. Like, adulting is so hard sometimes. Life can really, like, the grind of, having your, having your shit together, having your money in order, doing all the right things that you're supposed to do, it can really wear you down. And then all the things that life throws at you, all the experiences we go through, loss, everything. It's a really wearing thing, and sometimes we don't give ourselves that space to like tap into our spirit, right?
Excellent.
So
I agree 100%.
one of the things like that I've been working on in the last couple of years at the print shop is the open studio night, and it's a night that anyone can walk through the door, and it's a very open and inclusive environment where you don't have to have any experience in the art making that we do, which happens to be printmaking. But I still get people that come through there and just vibe off the energy and just end up sketching or not even engaging in print per se. But it's more so the feedback that I get, and why I know that work is important, and there should be more spaces like
Definitely,
this,
I agree.
is that people that walk in and they're just like, it just feels good to be there. When you're around people creating, it feels
artists, yes.
good. And especially if it's not an inhibiting environment.
Right.
It's not in a stifling environment. It's not an institutionalized.
Like work.
It's not like in an institutionalized
Yeah.
environment. It's just like open and it's freeing. And we don't give ourselves, enough. There's not enough spaces like that, especially in a capitalist society, because it has, everything has to be around money. You find these spaces often, like maybe open mics or open poetry spaces. They're often tapped into maybe like a capitalist business, like a cafe or a restaurant, and that's good at those spaces create that. But we should have more just open spaces where people can go and create. But then again, talking back to what you were saying before, then we got to get support for that type of thing, and long-term support, and from our local governments or from the major corporations that have rooted themselves in our communities. They have a lot of money. Maybe they should be supporting more spaces. Like I don't know how
I won't
the
say
structure.
maybe. I would say they should.
They should, but then we as a people should be demanding that or
We have
making
to
that
be.
happen.
You're going into my next question that you want to ask the artist. We need to demand the artist to understand and start doing more research. And I mean, the mayor has already talked about this incubator artist collectives. And he's talking about that, but we as artists have to do our own research. You put up two posts recently on Facebook that talk about other communities that are doing this.
Yeah, in New York City, they're formed a collective where to be part of that, democratic process of securing space and deciding what to be used in these spaces and acquiring these city-owned spaces. The buy-in, I think, is only like $10, but of course they encourage to put in more money because that money then is power, because that money is then what's used to purchase property, right? So I just kind of thought that was interesting, and I don't fully understand it, but I'm planning on going to the next meeting just to kind of understand how it's fairly new cooperative in New York, and their real estate issues are on a much different level than ours are. I think it's important for us to mobilize now as the real estate market is shifting pretty fast in Newark, but we have the support right now. Like the mayor openly invited artists to think about and imagine like 6 months ago or something, the city-owned properties and how could artists infiltrate different neighborhoods and utilize those spaces to create and activate spaces for creative purposes and engaging the larger, greater Newark community instead of just rooting the, creative community downtown, which I think is pretty powerful that he put that energy out there. But he's not going to tell us how to do it. That's for us to start researching and envisioning
you have to say
and
that.
conceptualizing and coming together and having discussions, having meetings, throwing ideas out there. And if ideas stick amongst a couple, different artists, then those artists take their idea to the next level and root it. But we just have to be more active. So I've been thinking about art as I've been kind of describing myself more as an artist activist lately, and using art
Have
for
you heard
social
that word before?
practice.
Did you just create that word?
I don't know, but I used to, okay, I'm going to own it. Because, in my 20s, I was very idealistic, but I feel like my idealism is more rooted in activism now, especially with, taking on space and sharing that space with the community. I see space as the number one resource that an artist needs for creation, because we need space maybe on a physical sense, you actually need somewhere to create, but also in the sense of, we can't be stifled. We need the space to
Very good.
So I'm just kind of putting my creative energy towards that. Art as activism. We need to.
That might be your group. I know you don't want to be a leader, but come on.
No, I want the artists to come together, and then as a group, we start conceptualizing how do we root ourselves here permanently, because the story again and again, artists. We're at a very interesting point in the Newark art community. We have artists that have been here, born and raised, have been here for a very long time. We have artists that are recently coming in, very recently, and everything in between. We have some of us that have been here. We're not from here, but we've been here for a decent amount of time now. We're pretty rooted here. We're committed to this city. We have artists that have gotten their MFAs. We have artists that never had that opportunity to go to art school at all. We have artists on all levels. We have institutions, major institutions, the Newark Museum, Algira Art Contemporary, and then we have newer art spaces. Solos projects have Life Lab, but these spaces are transitory. Look at Life Lab's already shut down, and we had Center Stage Cuts, which is a great cultural space, even though it's a barbershop, but it was a culture space. But these spaces are always in flux because we're at the mercy of real estate markets. So that we're at an integral point. If we want to keep, the creative energy, the community alive, we really have to start focusing energy on space, because it's a different climate than it was 10 years ago. To get space, it was much different. Now we're dealing with major developers who have they have their own long-term plans on what they want the Starbucks, the Foot Lockers that's about to open and all this. But what about our institutions, our culture space? We want long-term vision for that. Where's our collective that's come together and demanding long-term vision? We need to make sure we stay here. I'm being that's
no,
where
but
I'm at
we
right
want
now.
you see, because they're gonna be looking at it and they're gonna be like, well, we don't see her eyes. We need a long term, not transitory.
Yeah, well, that's the issue. Is that
that is the issue.
The art spaces have always been transitory. We, as artists, envision how do we use these spaces, but we're not thinking how are these spaces going to exist in this changing landscape
for 5, 10,
30 years from now. We want to make sure Solos Project House is a major institution that offers emerging artists studios at affordable rates 30 years down the road.
Self-sustaining.
Self-sustaining, but how do we create that?
Well, I think what it is, it's work to be done, because the people that created or lend us the money, they don't have those intentions.
That's the key. So they're using us and we're using them, but it's short term. Right. So how do we then reshape that? I don't know.
That's
the homework for all you artists out there watching.
In the comments.
That's
tell
the
us.
Homework. Let's figure this out together.
You have the answer. Bye. No. We're going to come back, I think. I don't know.